Hey YouTube. I believe today the Lord would like me to share with you some other things that happened in my life and everything. The Lord has allowed me in the past to see in the spiritual realm. Um, and the the one time was I was in Richmond, Virginia, and the Lord allowed me to see a demon that was sitting outside of this Coliseum. It was like a Christian convention that I was at, and when I got there, um, it was the biggest man I had ever seen in my life. I mean, he had huge. I mean, he had really broad shoulders. And when I walked up to where the gentleman was at, I looked at him, and the his eyes were solid white. And I remember, you know, my heart just went out to him because I knew he couldn't see. And so I said a prayer for him, and then I noticed, that nobody was stopping, and I thought he was like begging for money or something. And so I said, Lord, I said, why isn't anybody stopping and giving him donations? Because there was probably a good 3,000 people that was at this convention, and everybody was supposed to be Christians and stuff. And I didn't only have just enough money, for my eats for the weekend and gas money to get back home. And so I didn't have any money to give them. I didn't even have money for a motel room that weekend. I had slept in my car so I could go to this convention and everything. And I just noticed everybody just kept walking by him and stuff, and nobody stopped. But what I did was I just said a prayer for him, Lord, to heal his eyes and stuff. And I just kept, went about my business and stuff. But every time, I went out to get something to eat, and I came outside, and he was outside of where I went to get something to eat. And I thought, and he was by himself. There wasn't nobody that led him there. And I just kept noticing his eyes. And I just kept saying a prayer for him, Lord, heal his eyes. And just, went about my business and everything. But it puzzled me how he got over there. I didn't see any walking sticks. I didn't see nobody there with him. He was by himself. And then when I went back to the convention and I come back outside again, he was outside of another entrance that I came out of. And again, he was by himself. There was nobody with him. And so I just continued to pray for him and everything. And I just felt so bad that I couldn't give him any money and stuff. And I didn't see anywhere where he was even collecting money or anything. And all three incidences, these were all supposed to be Christian people, and everybody just kept walking by him. And so it wasn't until probably a good maybe 6, 7, 8 years later or so, and I heard an evangelist that was on TV, and he was talking about how the Lord had allowed him to see in the spiritual realm, and he described this demon that he had seen. And when he described that demon, he described the demon that I had seen to a T. He was talking about the whites of his eyes, how it was solid white, and how he was a big man. He was just huge. And I just jumped up and I was like, oh my gosh. And I ran and I told my husband, I was like, that's the same demon I seen outside that convention. Excuse me. And it was just, you know, for years I wondered why the Lord had allowed me to see that, what reason there was for it. And the only thing that I can say is that, it must have been so that I could do these videos someday to report to the world about the spiritual realm. Uh, Last year, I almost died. I contracted MRSA, however you pronounce it, and I was put in the hospital, and it was on my face, and they don't know if I picked it up in the grocery store or if I got it when I went to the dentist or how I got it, but it was really bad, and I got really, deathly sick, and like I said, I almost died from it. And while I was in the hospital in the emergency room, I looked across and I seen a demon, and everything about him, he was just, so evil, and all he did was just he was standing there, and I was like, Lord, why can't anybody see this? And the Lord, nobody could see him but me. And I was like, get out of here. But and he stayed there. Well, I forgot to say in Jesus' name, and I didn't, he still stayed there. But I could see the points of his teeth, and it was just like needle, if you pick up a needle and you see that point, that's how sharp the point was. And I believe the Lord allowed me to see in such detail that, that I would know that I wasn't, dreaming or anything. Because, like I said, I was really, really sick, or that I wasn't hallucinating. Um, but the whole time that I was in the emergency room, I kept getting this overwhelming feeling to pray for this guy. And so, as I'm praying for him and everything, I just prayed nonstop. I was in the hospital probably, I guess 3, 4 weeks. And the whole time I was in the hospital, I just kept praying for this guy and praying for him and praying for him. And it never left me the whole time I was in there that I needed to pray for him. And so after I left the hospital, I had gone out and I was going to pay uh, one of my bills and everything. And this guy came back to my mind. And so I was like, Lord, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go talk to him? What am I supposed to do? And so I went and I paid my bill, and on the way back, the Lord told me to pull in and get some gas. And my first response was, I've got enough gas, and, till tomorrow. And, I knew the Lord wanted me to stop. And the next thing I thought about was this gentleman. And I thought, oh, okay, he's going to be here. So I went inside, and when I went inside, there was nobody there. I mean, he wasn't there. I was like, well, So I went and I got to go get in my car, and guess who pulled in? The guy. And so I went over to him, and his name was Dwayne. I went over to him, and I said, Dwayne, I said, what is going on with you? I said, a few weeks ago I was in the hospital, and I could not stop praying for you. I said, what's going on with you? And he asked me what day I was in the hospital and everything. And him and I was in the emergency room together. He was in there the exact same time I was. And I'm to this day I'm not sure if he has given his life to the Lord. And there's got to be a reason why, the Lord had me praying for him, because he must have plans for him or something. But anyways, or it was so I could tell this story, I'm not sure. But anyway, so I told him, or he told me, he said, when I was in the emergency room, and I told him what day I was, he said, we was in the emergency room together. I said, well, what was you in there for? He says, I almost died. And so the demon that I seen there in the emergency room, I mean, with all my heart, I believe was there to take him and take him to hell. And the Lord allowed me to, see that and everything. And, it's just mind boggling how, here he's in the emergency room. I'm in the emergency room. I have an overwhelming feeling to pray for him and everything. And here he's over in the next room or down the room from me, and here he is almost dying. I said, well, what happened? And he says, well, when I was down to the beach, I caught a virus, and it almost killed me. So anyways, that's just to, let you know, demons are real. The spiritual realm is real. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's all around us. And I've heard angels speak to me and everything. During the time that I was, going down the wrong path and everything, I was laying in bed and I was smoking a cigarette, and I started to fall asleep, and I heard my guardian angel or an angel speak to me, and they went, Rose, in my ear. And I heard, my husband calls me hon or sugar or sweetie or whatever, but I never heard my name, because, and my kids, it was always mom, I never heard anybody ever say Rose. And it was just, I mean, I jumped, and when I jumped, I looked down, and the blanket was, fixing to catch fire. It was fire red, and a hole this big around had been burnt in an Afghan I had made. And, that was an angel, speaking to me. And this other time, anytime I ever go out on, take a trip or something, I was going to Pennsylvania. I always ask for the Lord to put angels guard over me and to protect me and guide me there safely and back. And I went to go to Pennsylvania, and it was at night, and right out of nowhere, here I am driving along, and right out of nowhere, there was this person that was walking up the middle of the road, right dead center toward my car, with this blank stare on their face. Now I don't know if this was male or female, but they had short black hair, and it was walking right straight toward my car. And there was a car that was like right behind me with its headlights. I mean, it was just so close. He was really tailgating me and everything, and I swerved to miss this guy or woman, whoever it was. And when I swerved, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I knew the car that was behind me did not have time to see them or get away from them. I knew they got run over or something happened to them. And so I went down. It was like a straight stretch and everything. I went down and I seen this police officer and I pulled over and I said, "Man," I said, "there's somebody up there that has either committed suicide or just trying to commit suicide." I said, "I almost ran over him, but the car behind me," I said, "it didn't have time to get over." And I said, "I think he got run over." He says, "Well, just down the road is a payphone. Go call 911." He says, "I'm en route." He says, I can't go over there." And so I went and I called 911 and told them what happened and everything. Excuse me. And so I turned, I knew I couldn't go on my trip without knowing what happened. I didn't want to see this man hurt or anything, but I had to go back and make sure he was okay. So I turned around and I headed back, and down through that stretch there was nothing. There was nobody. There was nothing, and it was a wooded area all the way down through there, pitch black. There was no houses. There was no place this person could have gone. If they was there, they would have had to continue walking unless they went into the woods. But there was nobody there. And I was like, that is just so strange. Where did he go? And so I headed out on I went ahead and I left to go on my trip. And as I took the off ramp, and just down from the off ramp, there was a car accident. And it was really bad. It wasn't good at all. And I prayed for the people that was there. And I went ahead and I went on. And as I'm going, I thought to myself, it came to me. I was like, I would have been involved in that car accident had I not seen that person walking up the road. So I believe that was an angel that had, you know, slowed me down long enough where I wasn't in that accident. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close now. I've got a few more things that the Lord wants me to share with you and everything. And I would just want to make sure this is all recorded. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.